Thanks for joining us here today. My name is Laird Kulak. I'm a Sloan Fellow from '04. I'm also on the Board of Governors for the Sloan Fellows and a member of the organizing committee for this weekend. So thanks for joining us here today and this weekend. I've been really enjoying it. There's some housekeeping items to go over just before we start. This afternoon there's flex time and there's some events this afternoon that still have some space available. So if you want to take a look at what they are, and you can go down to the registration area and take a look. This session is being recorded, so when we have the Q&A, if you could use the mics and announce who you are in your class year, the program will be rebroadcast on the website this summer, so just for that purpose. And so it's my pleasure to introduce Roman Lubynsky, who is MOT 89, and he currently works at the MIT Venture Mentoring Service as a mentor advisor, where over the past decade he has helped hundreds of young startups get going. He was the vice president of FastFacts Corporation in Nassau, New Hampshire, a pioneer in information systems for the hospitality industry, and he serves on a number of advisory boards. So please welcome Roman.
Thank you very much, Laird. So welcome to the history of accounting. That glazed look. Really, how many people knew what VMS stood for before you came in this room? How many thought it was virtual machine something? Okay. I'd like to just get a quick show of hands to see what kind of audience we do have. How many people are from the local area, and or how many people are from the local area first? And how many people are entrepreneurs or definitely thinking of starting a venture? Whoa. Okay. So that gives us a little information to calibrate from. As Laird mentioned, I've been here at the MIT Venture Mentoring Service for almost 10 years now. I started as a volunteer mentor. I actually have my classmate Jeff to thank for that, who drew me in. But then I got asked to join his staff, because some days when it's all volunteers, nobody shows up. I'll introduce my colleagues briefly in just a little bit, but let's get a little calibration. We're going to talk about the Venture Mentoring Service today, and this is really one of the first things or few things that you're ever going to have offered to you from MIT that's associated with the word free. Everyone in this room has the potential to access and engage with VMS in one way or another. And just to help you frame everything that you're going to hear today, let me tell you about the key outcomes that we're hoping to deliver. For you, if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to learn how you can access VMS and how it could possibly fit to help you decide. If you have valuable startup experience to share and the time and commitment to regularly spend it with us, you can learn how to become a mentor. And finally, if you don't have the time to be a mentor, or if you live distantly, we'll tell you how you can still be a valuable resource to the Venture Mentoring Service. First, and we'll tell you about how you can engage before we leave today. First, we're going to tell you about VMS and the mentoring experience itself. Sherwin Greenblatt, who is the director of VMS, is here today, and he'll tell you about what we do and how we do it and who we do it for. Then we have a panel that's made up of past MOTs and Sloan Fellows that are all either mentors or mentees, and in Jeff's case, he was both. I guess I forgot the slides. Something happened to that one. But anyway, you can see that MOT 89 is widely represented here, but there's Ted and Jeff are from Sloan Fellows 07. And David Bernbach's MOT 89. Now, I'd like to introduce Sherwin, who's going to talk to us for a while about VMS and explain how it works. Sherwin volunteers as the director of VMS, which he joined in 2002 when he retired from Bose as president. Bose Corporation as president. Actually, what are the JBL.
Yeah, bad news.
Yeah.
Bad news.
No wonder the AV doesn't work right. And he's had many positions at Bose over the years, but he was the first employee because he joined as professor as they went out of school here. And at the end, he spent 15 years as president. When he retired, he came here to VMS, but in 2005, President Hockfield asked him to spend a couple of years as the executive VP of MIT and treasurer. And then in 2008, she asked him again to serve as the EVP and CEO of the MIT Alumni Association. He still serves on many boards and has directorships. He's a pretty busy guy. And he's an engineer with both his MS and BS from electrical engineering here at MIT. So I'll now turn it over to Sherwin, who will tell us about VMS. Thank you.
Thanks, Roman. Supposedly I have a mic. Is it working? Okay. So let me correct one thing that Roman said. He said this is one of the few things that you'll find here that's for free. It isn't really free. And we'll talk about that a little later. So first of all, what's VMS? It's the Venture Mentoring Service. So now you know what the acronym is all about. And let me talk first about the premise for venture mentoring. So suppose you're a member of the MIT community, and all of you are here. And suppose you have an idea, and you can't get it out of your head, and you get passionate about the idea, and you keep thinking, boy, this thing is great, and I'd like to move this forward. I'd like to pursue this and maybe start a company or license or somehow see this idea get out into the world. And suppose you live in the Boston area, because that's what we serve. So what do you do if that's the case? So most people here, I have to tell you, don't have a clue. You know, entrepreneurship is relatively new at MIT and primarily has been concentrated in the Sloan School. Most of the other engineers and scientists, they just don't know how to proceed. And so there's a lot of frustration amongst people with ideas. Maybe they try to start a venture or try to figure out what to do, and they're so inexperienced that they fail early on. Or maybe they get going and they start a company, and then because they don't know what to do, it fails and they're crushed. Or maybe even they achieve some success, and then they bring in some very experienced people who show them how to run the company and then show them the door because they don't need them anymore. That happens also. At any rate, it's not a very happy situation for a lot of people. And so that's where Venture Mentoring Service comes into play. Brief bit of history. It was founded in 2000 or started in 2000. It's a part of MIT. We are part of the provost's office. It was founded by a serial entrepreneur, Sloan graduate by the name of Alec Dingy. Alec was one of these folks who was born to be a serial entrepreneur. I think in his cradle he was starting ventures. And had a career after graduation that was a classic serial entrepreneur career. He started a number of ventures, a few of which were enormously successful, and some of the others are what we euphemistically call learning experiences. So he is really well seasoned at this. And Alec got to the point in his life and his career when he said, you know, I'm at this stage, I'd like to give something back. So he came back to his alma mater and presented himself. And of course, as soon as he said, I'd like to give something back, guess what the first thing they asked for was? They asked for the money. But he said, look, that will come in time. I'd like to give some of my knowledge and experience back. Took him a while, but ultimately wrote an idea paper, submitted it to the individual who was about to become provost of MIT. It was Bob Brown. got a call from Bob who said, this is interesting. I have a white paper from a faculty member. Why don't you two get together and make a proposal? The faculty member was Dave Stalin. Dave is a Course 6 EECS longtime faculty member, and from the faculty side was also a serial entrepreneur. A number of very, very successful startups that he was part of and came out of the work that he was doing here. And then he also has his share of learning experiences as well. So they got together, made a proposal, it was accepted, and in 2000, they started the Venture Mentoring Service. It was initially funded by the founders because they really believed in what they were doing. They believed it was important for MIT and important for members of the MIT community. And really in the first year, almost single-handedly, Alec got the program off the ground. I think he worked much more than full-time to get it off the ground, and validated the model that there was a use for mentoring here, that it played an important part in encouraging entrepreneurship. And since then, we've had steady growth and improvement, and I'll get to that. I'll summarize that in a little bit. So what's the mission here? We want to support entrepreneurial activities within the MIT community. And what do I mean by MIT community? I don't just mean the students. I mean, of course, students, undergrad, grad students, but also faculty members, staff. MIT has a large employment base, about 10,000 employees, and alumni who live in the greater Boston area. So if you're one of those who raised your hand as living in the area, you are eligible to take advantage of our services. We want to further the educational mission of MIT. MIT has always had the model of mind and hand. So it's not just the classic education of let's think about it and write about it. It's also let's do something about the things that we think about. And so I kind of think about venture mentoring as we're part of the hand of the mind and hand. And in fact, we're working at the fingertips, helping those ideas to enter the world of practicality. And even beyond that, MIT is well known for many of the people who've graduated and gone on to either create or foster innovation in the world. MIT itself wants to be a place that's known for innovation. And so we're charged with coming up with a program that's different, that's novel, and that's so effective that people from other institutions will want to come back and study what MIT is doing, what we're doing here. When I first realized that was part of our mission, I thought that was ludicrous. I mean, how could we possibly get to the point where people would want to look at what we're doing? But I have to tell you today, and I'll summarize this later, we have a regular program of people coming and studying with us to learn how to create programs that foster entrepreneurship in their institutions. And finally, what I call the pragmatic part of our mission, and this is why it's not free, we want to broaden MIT's base of potential support. I mean, in any modern research university, the amount that you pay in tuition doesn't cover the actual costs. MIT is a hands-on, intense place, and in fact, it costs probably twice as much as tuition to educate every student. And so how does an institution make ends meet? What do? Well, they do research, and that brings in some money, but that doesn't really cover the gap. And in fact, it's philanthropy that really helps MIT pay its bills. And where does that come from? Typically, it comes from alums who've gotten a good education, who go off in the world, are successful, and then see fit to give back to their institution. So we tell all of the ventures that we work with, look, I know you're starting now on a shoestring, but someday when you're really successful, and someday when you have that big liquidity event, and you're sitting there with all that money in your hands, we want you to remember MIT, remember your alma mater, and it wouldn't hurt if you remembered the venture mentoring service that helped you get started as well. I mean, that would be nice, but what's really important is that people remember to give back to MIT. So that's kind of the scope of the mission. Our goals, we want to educate aspiring entrepreneurs about the venture creation process. And you notice that's number 1 on the list. And that's important because we recognize that if you're going to start a venture, it's a high-risk undertaking. We call it high mortality because the chances of success are not high. Even for experienced people, if you're starting from scratch, there's a big risk involved. And so we think the best thing that we can do for members of the MIT community is to provide guidance and education into what this venture process is all about, how you can take an idea, figure out how to make it into a product, how you can find a market for that product, how you can sell into that market, how you can assemble a team, how you can figure out what money you need, where you can get it, all those things that you need to start. If we can educate people in how that works, and if we can give individuals confidence that they can succeed in that world, even if they don't the first time, then maybe they'll have the confidence and the knowledge to start a second or third time. And if you talk to most successful entrepreneurs, they tell you that very often it wasn't their first try that succeeded. So what we think that we're doing is we're helping to create capable entrepreneurs, the entrepreneurs of the future, the CEOs of the future. And that's really the limitation today in the development of entrepreneurship in any economy. So that's primarily what we think we're doing. We think we have to focus on in goals. We want to develop entrepreneurial leaders, not just people who are entrepreneurs, but people who can show leadership in doing that. We want to build a vibrant community of experienced business mentors, and I'll talk about that in a bit. So the mentor side is as important as the mentee side. We're trying to bridge the worlds of academia and business. I mean, we come from a model of a classical university, not MIT, but the country. So you educate people in the things they need to know, but not the things of practice, and then you send them out into the world to learn the practical. And we think that's a big gulf. And so what we're trying to do is take all the bright ideas that might be generated here and help them to move out into the practical world and help them to benefit people. And finally, I would be remiss if I didn't say, we really would like to create some successful ventures. That's important also. So how do we do it? Our services are free, no strings attached. But remember, if you're successful, we expect you to pay up. We have experienced mentors to work with individuals. They've been there. We only take on mentors who really have useful experience. We're a source of entrepreneurial resources and expertise. So even beyond the mentor base, there's who the mentors know and who we can call on for help, and we can provide that as you start up. We have some strict guidelines for our mentors. So therefore, they give unbiased advice. No mentor is there who's looking for an investment. No mentor is looking for their next CEO gig. And if a mentor is in a business that's a service provider, they're specifically not looking for their next client. They really are looking to give back in an unbiased manner. We don't do the work. We're educational. We provide guidance. We don't tell people what to do. We tell them what their choices are, and we let the individuals decide what to do, because after all, that's what entrepreneurship is all about. It's learning to make decisions in a fuzzy world. And so if we can help guide those decisions, then maybe better quality decisions will be made, but also the individual learns how that process works. And finally, the learn by doing. The entrepreneur does the work. We provide the advice and guidance. So if you want to participate in the program, we have some very strict requirements. You have to be a member of the MIT community. You have to have an idea. You have to be passionate about making that idea successful, monetizing it in some way. We have some constraints on the idea, very strict constraints. It can't violate the laws of physics or the laws or ethics of our country. You laugh, but I can't tell you how many perpetual motion machines we've seen. We don't support those. And finally, the individual has to be committed to spending the time and effort to build a successful venture. We're looking for people who really want to learn and are willing to commit themselves to doing that. So if you fit these requirements, then you're eligible for our services. So here's a summary of where we are with our ventures. Since we started in 2000, the program has grown enormously. We have 240 ventures, let me say would-be ventures, currently engaged in the program. 128 of them are active. By active, I mean they meet frequently with their mentors. I'll talk about the process in a little bit. And they're receiving active guidance, and they're working on their venture. We have 28 ventures that are in what we call low activity. You know, when in school, when you learn how these processes work, it's always linear. First this happens, then this, and pretty soon you're successful. But real life doesn't work that way. So it's not unusual for an entrepreneur to say, oh, I'm exhausted. I just can't go on anymore. Even though I want to get this thing going, I just need to take a break. So sometimes they go to sleep for a while. Maybe they're broke and need to earn some money or something like that. Not uncommon. And then maybe 6 months, 9 months, 12 months later, they'll come back and they'll say, well, I have some money in the bank, let's go again. So we watch those low activity ventures, and if they do want to start again, we're there to help them go. And finally, we have 84 what we call graduates of the program, people who have gotten to the point where their ventures are going and they're building their businesses. They're in various stages of funding. Everything from, well, I've almost maxed my credit card out, how am I going to keep my business going, to a substantial investment from outside investors, VCs and whatnot. And people say, what kind of ventures? Everything you can imagine. Remember our definition of what we accept. And we get everything. Doesn't have to have technology. It can be any idea that an individual is passionate about. I'll give you a few examples of what are some of the ventures that are interesting or very exciting to our mentor base. So the first one of these is Terrafugia. You may have seen some of the publicity that they get. This is what they call a roadable aircraft, and it's a very serious undertaking by a group of aero-astro engineers. The idea here is that you put your device, your car, in your garage. Before you go anywhere, you need to fill it up, so you go to a filling station and you use regular gasoline. You drive to the nearest airport. At the nearest airport, you extend the wings, you take off, you fly 250 miles to where you're going, you land at the nearest airport, and then you fold up the wings and you drive off to where you're going. Yeah, yes, sir.
Wouldn't there be some regulatory issues here?
So this is part of starting a venture. Not only are there regulatory issues, but there are different conflicting agencies you have to deal with. So imagine trying to satisfy NHTSA and the FAA at the same time. But believe it or not, and by the way, there's insurance issues as well. Okay? So believe it or not, I mean, we've been working with them for a number of years. They've gotten through all of that. They've flown their prototype, and now they're doing their production design. They have nearly 100 deposits on these aircraft now. So this is one of the companies that we're particularly proud of. They would not be stopped by any roadblock, and their good work and our advice, we've been able to get them to this point. They're looking for investors, by the way, if you're so inclined. So this is a very different kind of an idea. This is something that came from one of our Media Lab students. And the problem that she had is that when she has to wake up in the morning, she doesn't really want to get out of bed. So she would take her alarm clock and snooze it. And then when it went off again, she'd snooze it again, until she was late for whatever she had to do. And so she conceived of this clocky idea. Of this clocky idea, where your alarm clock sits on your bedstand. If you put it on snooze, it snoozes, and then before it rings again, it rolls off of your bedstand and rolls to some remote point in your room and then goes off. Yeah, sounds strange and funny, but I have to tell you, this is a one-woman entrepreneur who's made this very successful. MoMA, a design store, has featured it, and it's been featured in many magazines and catalogs, and she has done quite well for herself with this idea, and now she's moving on to other ideas. Not all are quite so funny. Smart Cells is a venture that we've worked with for 8 years. It's a PhD chemical engineering student who had an idea for drug delivery. He can encapsulate a drug in a polymer compound, and he was able to engineer this to the point where he's demonstrated its efficacy and that it works. And the idea that he had was he would create smart insulin. He would take the drug insulin, coat it in a polymer coating that was sensitive to the glucose level in blood. And so the idea is you inject it, and if the blood sugar level gets too high, the coating melts and releases insulin. And if it gets low, it doesn't release insulin. So it's self-regulating. This is a breakthrough in diabetic control, absolute breakthrough. Forget about measurements, forget about worrying about it, forget about comas and whatnot. Just keep the level of smart insulin up in your blood and everything takes care of itself. So this is a dynamite idea that he worked on for 8 years. It's not practical for a small company to bring an idea like this to market because obviously all the approvals and whatnot cost literally hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. And so he pushed this idea to the point where he had shown feasibility. He had removed most of the risks in terms of whether it would work or not, and got to the point where he was ready to start human trials, got all of his approvals, and then talked to a number of pharma companies, big pharma companies. As it turned out, because he's very clever, he got 4 pharma companies all bidding against each other for the rights to this. He thought that what he wanted to do was license this idea to a company and keep the basic patents. But in the end, he decided to sell his company to Merck. And so last December, he signed a deal that when all of the incentives are finished, it will net he and his small number of investors $500 million. So here's a young man who worked hard for a while and now doesn't have to work another day in his life. So, of course, he's busy working on what he's going to do next, what the next thing will be. So that gives you a feel for what the ventures are all about. Let's talk about mentors a bit. So we have some criteria for mentor selection. We look for mentors that have relevant experience, that are motivated to give back, or at the point in their life when they really want to give something back. Have the time to participate. You know, we're all very busy. We'd like to do a lot of things, but if you can't provide a minimal amount of time to help ventures on a regular basis, then you can't get to a critical mass of supporting some of the ventures that we work with. We're looking for people who are not motivated for personal gain, and we talked a little bit about that before. We look for people who have a personality appropriate to advise. You know, if you work with entrepreneurs, you know that there are some pretty hard-nosed, hard-driving folks out there. And for the entrepreneur whose attitude is it's either my way or the highway, they really don't make good mentors. They don't make good advisors, and so we don't take those folks on. And finally, our mentors are role models for our mentees. So that means that their ethical base and their history and whatnot of how they've conducted themselves, it has to be beyond reproach. There can't be any question about a person or their past. So this is what we look for in mentors. And here's the update on stats on the mentors. We have 143. 121 of them are active. By active, I mean every month, maybe every 6 weeks, they do something. They meet with ventures, or they work for the program to help us develop the program. So they're giving their time. 51% have an MIT background. The others are just folks that have lots of talent and love to work with MIT people. So that brings a richness of experience into our mentor base that we wouldn't otherwise have. They all have some sort of startup experience, either directly or having supported startups, or have been associated with startups maybe from the side of a big company. Maybe they were the individuals in a big company that worked with the startups that the company wanted to work with. And they have a broad range of backgrounds, technical and industry expertise, business expertise. It's impossible to categorize the mentors. So what we do, the way the process works is we meet monthly, mentors meet monthly. We discuss ventures, we discuss new ventures, we discuss ventures that are ongoing. We, as a group, try to pool our expertise to help those ventures. And then individually, or I should say in mentor teams, the entrepreneurs will meet with the ventures during the month to help them with whatever problems they have on the table, whether it be strategy, whether it be execution, fundraising. We will help with any of the things that they need help on at the time. And our feeling is that one of the big contributions we can make is helping an entrepreneur to focus. You know, when you're starting a venture, you think there's a million things you have to do. And sometimes you can be paralyzed, or more often you can be working on the wrong thing. And we think one of the things we help do is figure out what the right thing to work on at any given time is and focus the entrepreneur on that. So I want to give you an idea of what the monthly meeting is about. We've done a video clip for other purposes, and we've edited it down, so it's a little choppy here, but this will give you an idea of what we do at our monthly meetings. And by the way, our monthly meetings are attended by anywhere from 80. Last month we had 100 of our mentors show up because it's such a rich and interesting experience. So let me go through this and let me share with you what this
I would
is
like
all
to
about.
welcome you all to our June meeting of our VMS mentors.
So the program continues to grow and I think continues to generate some successful ventures, which is what we all hope.
You may remember that Tag Safety has a technology called TagView, which is a time-of-flight distance measurement technology. Having this technology incorporated into a radio on a chip is, in all likelihood, the best placement for the technology. So through the good offices of VMS, we were introduced to analog devices through Ray Stata, whom Sherwin contacted for us, and we had a great conversation, introductory conversation with them yesterday.
Smart cells have developed a molecule which is injectable into diabetes patients, and it senses blood sugar level and releases insulin when needed to keep blood sugar levels stable. They have recently been raising their D round of funding, and we're aiming for $4 million and have concluded the round with $4.1 million.
If you've ever used your smartphone or mobile phone to look at a website, you'll know that it's like looking at something through a keyhole and you keep trying to move it around, trying to figure out what it's trying to say. Well, the new venture, C2M, has got a solution for that. They have developed a proprietary technology, so it is patentable, that enables websites on any website to show up optimally on any mobile device, irrespective of screen size or operating system. They are looking to us for guidance on product strategy, on helping them develop some advisors, the type of people that would be appropriate for the market that they're trying to go into, and of course fundraising. So anybody that's had experience with mobile web or anything of that sort, anybody that's had experience with medical devices, anybody who does a lot of shopping, anybody know what mechanical thrombectomy for ischemic stroke means? Okay, just sign up.
M-Survey's activity provides needs assessment surveys and analysis to NGOs, government agencies, academia, etc. by uploading the survey through mobile phones and then networking the survey from one respondent to another in real time. The venture needs VMS support in developing a business model, developing a pricing strategy, and managing for profitable growth.
Firehose Games was started by Eitan, and he started an independent game studio a while back and recently secured a publishing deal with Sony Online Entertainment. He's going to be demoing his game, so even if you guys don't play games, I'd encourage you to check it out.
And I think this is a very exciting example of some entrepreneurs who started in a very tentative way and then got their act together and really came on something that has great value now, will have even greater value in the near future. Thank you. So you can see there's very broad range of folks that we deal with, and it's very exciting, I have to tell you. So why do we think we're successful? We focus on professional education, the learn by doing. We leverage MIT's education mission, their reputation and resources. So we have tremendous capabilities behind our mentor base, and we try to leverage those as best as we can. We're very selective about who becomes a mentor. We require personal referrals. We do rigorous screening. And if you talk to a mentor base, they will tell you that it's prestigious to be an MIT venture mentoring mentor. And that means that even better people keep coming because they want to participate in something like that. We have strict ethical guidelines for mentors and entrepreneurs, so we believe we have an unbiased process. Many of our entrepreneurs come back to us because they say, this is the only place where I can go, where I can get advice that I know is unbiased and I trust it. And finally, the team mentoring that we do builds a culture of quality, culture of collegiality, working together, and trust amongst the mentors. And therefore, it's a good experience for mentors. Mentors like to participate, and they like to come back. Some metrics about what we've done. In the 10 years that we've been operating, we've served over 1,500 entrepreneurs from the MIT community. They were starting more than 900 ventures. We have 126 that are currently working towards their launch, and 142 that we've launched, that have been launched. Interestingly enough, if you look collectively amongst the ventures, they've raised $850 million in the 10 years. And that money doesn't flow into the pockets of someone. That money is used to start ventures, and so it flows into the community. It goes for salaries, services, which in turn go for salaries, and materials, which also go for salaries. So I can't tell you how many jobs that we've created, but I can tell you that we have flowed $850 million into the community. And even in a place like Boston, that's a significant amount of money, significant economically. We have 10 ventures that have had some sort of liquidity event. We haven't had any that have gone public, but we have had 10 ventures that have been purchased by larger entities. So the investors and the principals have received some sort of equity money. If you add up the amount as best we can determine, because many of these transactions are private, those 10 ventures have had over $650 million in liquidity events. You can tell what the giant one was. I mentioned that one. But nevertheless, there have been others. And as a metric, our mentor base continues to grow by referrals, so we must be doing something right. People keep coming. And the entrepreneurs keep enrolling as well because they talk to their colleagues and the experience is good. The benefits, so MIT technology spin-outs, although not all of our ventures have technology and not all of the technology ventures come from MIT work, there are a number that do, and so we're helping take ideas generated on campus and helping those spin out into the world. We think we're adding value to students' education because we're giving them an inkling of what it's like to be in the practical world and to take their ideas and to have them move forward. We provide what Bob Brown, the provost who helped us start, called after-sales service for alumni. So his observation was, one of the things, when he heard about what we were doing, he said one of the things that we do at MIT the thing we do is we educate our students, we give them a piece of paper, and we kick them out the door. And what he said is what VMS is doing is something beyond that. You're actually reaching out to our alumni base and helping them with their careers, helping them start or restart their careers in ways that they're interested in but wouldn't otherwise have good resources to do. And he said this is important. We ought to think of other ways in which MIT can do this. So we're helping provide the after-sales service. We keep mentors connected to the Institute. The mentors who are alums here, very, very helpful, but even the ones who aren't, they stay connected, which means that there are opportunities on both sides for our resource development people. They do go to our mentors and from time to time say, how'd you like to give back to MIT? And finally, we're creating a significant amount of economic activity in the community. So remember I said before having people come back and look at what we're doing and study what we're doing. So in the last 4 years, we've developed a very active, what we call outreach program. We provide assistance for prospective venture mentoring programs, and we provide all these different types of assistance. We had some help from the Kaufman Foundation. They're the largest foundation supporting entrepreneurship in the world. They identified the MIT program as the gold standard, the benchmark program for connecting academia and business, and gave us support to develop teaching materials and to begin a program of outreach, and that program has now grown significantly. And so today we have about 16 or 17 programs, venture mentoring programs, that are modeled after the MIT program. And here's a list of the different programs. Interestingly enough, they're not all academic institutions. So we get some economic development organizations that say, this is interesting, we'd like to try this in our area. And they work just as well outside of universities. The ideas work just as well as they work inside universities. And so we have all of these consortia and regional programs that are operating modeled on what we're doing. And finally, we think we're supporting the mission of MIT. The mission, to quote, the Institute's committed to generating, disseminating, and preserving knowledge, to working with others to bring this knowledge to bear on the world's greatest challenges. We're really helping to move that knowledge out to the world and to bring it to bear. So we think we're doing that. And we think we're making a contribution to MIT, to the MIT alumni, and to society as a whole. Everyone who participates in our program is a winner, and it's unusual to find something like that. So that makes us feel pretty good. So that's all I have to say, and I'm going to turn this back to Roman and let him continue.
Thank you very much. Is this on now? Okay. In our next segment, we'd like to have a very interactive session with you folks. So we'd like you to ask us questions, probably about how all this mentoring stuff works. You probably have some things that have been simmering as you were listening to Sherwin speak. For that, Dave Diamond will be the moderator and lead this session. And we have a group of both mentors and mentees. So hopefully we can look at both sides of that. Dave, would you like to?
Yep, sounds good. So our objective today, as Roman discussed, is to make it comfortable to ask questions about how we run the program. And on our panel, we've got Jeff Gill, David Birnbaum, Jeff Behrens, Ted Ackworth, Roman Lubynsky, and myself, David Diamond. I'm going to go through each, ask them to give a very brief introduction so you get a sense for what their technical background is. And I've asked each one of them to mention a company that they may have mentored in the past. And what I'm hoping is that you'll find something interesting in either their background or the company that they mention that will compel you to ask them a question about what they did with the company and that sort of thing. Before we begin, I saw that you had a question.
My name's Elizabeth Galusi. I'm at MBA 01, and I'm sorry if this throws us off, but I have a burning question, which is, why have I never heard about this program? I went to an entrepreneurship ecosystem session yesterday morning with Ed Roberts, and there was no mention about this. So frankly, I'm just very concerned that the MBA program or the Sloan School is somehow not connected to you guys. I've been in startups before and after the MBA. I had an eLab team. This is fascinating, and I wish I had known about it a long time ago.
Well, I was at that same session, and VMS was mentioned 3 or 4 times. I noticed because I kind of listened for it, but it wasn't central. So, and then there was a very quick ecosystem chart that they flashed. That as Ed was going through his slides. We were kind of big on that, but that was only on for like a second because he was running behind. But obviously at Sloan, the e-center kind of overshadows things, and a lot of times people when they hear VMS, they think it's something that's just part of that. So kind of, that's why we're here. We're trying to get out in front of people and let people know. Thanks.
Sure. So I think what we'll do now, it's probably best for you to kind of know us. So I'm just going to go down the line and ask each person to spend about a minute telling you about their background and perhaps a company that they've worked with in the past. This is Jeff Gill.
Hi, Jeff Gill. I'm been both a mentor and a mentee, actually both of them twice. My original background was in software and math and physics. Did the engineering thing for a number of years, came back, got my degree at MIT in the MOT program in '89, went off, did consulting, worked at Harvard Business School for a couple of years, writing case studies and research there, and been in various companies. I think I'm now in my fourth startup. I'm the CFO of Interscope Research. We do market research, but a lot of my background's also in energy and so forth. I think I've worked in every function in a company, and so I got a very broad background and enjoy mentoring.
And I'm David Bernbach, and my background's in software engineering. I was at Sloan in '88 and '89. It doesn't seem like it's long ago until I see all these young people walking around the hallways. I have worked in three startups since leaving Sloan. The last, for the past 5 years, I was CEO of a company called Valtus Mobile Technologies, a mobile software company that was also a spinoff from MIT and the Computer Science Lab. I'm currently working with two very interesting companies. One is a new entity called BioBuilder, which is a professor in the biological engineering department that is building a series of very exciting online materials to take the future field called bioengineering that is estimated by 2018 to be the fastest growing discipline in all of the workplace, and provide these materials to high schools to enable schools that to have access and ability to tap really exciting things going on at MIT that can be accessible for schools all around the country. So that's one. The second is a venture out of the Computer Science Lab that was called eWall, which is a visualization technology that connects to a lot of disparate sources of information and consolidates it and normalizes it into a highly graphical way to manage it all. And we're working with that firm right now to look at the areas of applicability. One of the main areas has been a lot of interest from the intelligence agencies and the Department of Defense to be able to make rapid decision-making with disparate information coming real-time from multiple sources. So it's been a really exciting participation for me in the last couple of years, and we're looking to involve other folks like you in the process.
So I'm Jeff Behrens. I graduated from Harvard, in '89, undergraduate in philosophy, and fell into the computer business in the early '90s with sort of no clue how to run a business, and didn't know about VMS and wouldn't have been eligible at the time anyway, but did rely very heavily on mentoring to help me figure out how to grow that business, which was called the Telluride Group, which raised some angel funding in the late '90s and then was sold in 2003. So that was sort of chapter one of life. And then I came here and spent a year in Sloan Fellows in 2005-06, and then a year with HST doing a second master's degree to learn about life sciences. And then around that same time joined VMS. Initially was working more with IT-oriented companies because I hadn't yet learned about life sciences. Since then, I've been working quite a bit in the life science field, in the venture side, and most recently in a very small orphan drug company that's venture financed. And that's one example of a not even a company yet, but the potential for a company, very fascinating technology, where I just had a meeting 2 weeks ago, was a faculty member from here in bioengineering and then a faculty member from University of North Carolina who have been partnering together and doing research on mouse models of disease, which are very important because they're a way to test drugs and get rapid answers to sort of reduce the cost of developing drugs and reduce the risk to people of developing drugs. And they're trying to make a mouse model that's more like a human, so putting a human blood system into a mouse, then using that to test human cancers and drugs that would treat those cancers. So it's a fascinating technology, an interesting business puzzle of how do you turn this into a service business, a drug development business. Great people, fascinating questions. We don't have all the answers, but we're trying to help them out. So that's an example.
everybody. I'm Ted Ackworth. I came to Boston in 2002 after my PhD at Stanford in mechanical engineering. And I was out in the Silicon Valley and then through the 90s in the dot-com boom and sort of got a taste of entrepreneurship then while I was doing my PhD. And I came to Boston for a postdoc at MIT. And the week I got here, I started co-founding a company in parallel with my research job here that went sort of the classic trajectory. We did what's now called the 100K competition. Does everybody know about the 100K? It was then called the 50K. I guess it's inflationary. And we ended up getting a second place in that, and also at HBS we got a second place there, and parlayed that into a Series A, and then sold the company in December of 2006. It was called Brontes Technologies. It was a 3D imaging camera company that we applied towards the dental market. And we were, that's when I discovered VMS, was during that time, because I was on staff at MIT doing this moonlighting thing nights and weekends, and I learned about this resource that you could get for free and get some help. And so it was very helpful at that time, starting that company. And then I really got the bug, and so I enrolled in Sloan Fellows, and during that time I started an idea for my current company called Artaic, which is also, I'm now a mentee again. I'm not a mentor. I guess at some point I'll have to jump over the fence. So for the last 4 years, I'm an SF07. I've been founding and running Artaic Mosaics, and I'm a mosaic artist now, believe it or not. But I developed robotic systems and digital image processing systems for designing and automating the production. And we just finished projects. We just did Legal Seafoods Harborside on the waterfront here, Tropicana Casino at Atlantic City. We're at HomeDepot.com as Mosaic Loft, and some hotels and other projects coming. We're working on Logan Airport right now. So we were asked to talk a little bit about VMS. The best thing about VMS is the listserv. So get on the. I don't know if it's totally open to the public, or do you have to be a mentee or a mentor? So okay, it's awesome. It's fairly new, I believe. During Brontes, it didn't exist, and I think about 2-3 years ago, somebody had the brilliant idea to create a listserv, and it's amazing the traffic by email that goes around. Oh, I need an accountant. Somebody lobs in a question, and 5 people respond. Check out this person, that service, and it's all kinds of things, all about the nuts and bolts and mechanics. Very, very helpful and easy just to keep up with. And I'll just leave it at that. Actually, cool.
Thank you. And I can vouch for how cool the mosaics are. I've only seen a couple of them, but they're very impressive mosaics. I'm David Diamond. I've been fortunate to be a mentor in the venture mentoring service for 10 years. My background started as a mechanical and electrical engineer. I worked for the Department of Defense and intelligence and electronic warfare systems, command and control systems. Came to MIT to get my master's in management of technology in the MIT program that some of the others here have participated in. And from there, my life changed. I became interested in entrepreneurship. I came to Boston to run a startup company in the satellite space. Worked with Verizon as they were conducting the merger between Bell Atlantic and GTE. Ran a venture capital firm. So I've been very fortunate in the places my career has taken me. And like Jeff, I've probably held just about every role in a company. And some of the companies that I've worked with in VMS, Oscomp took a 100-year-old compressor design and applied it to the oil and gas industry to pressurize wells that were thought to be no longer productive. And in pressurizing them, one can now make these wells productive again. WebNotes is a company that actually developed an annotation technology. So when you're looking at a web screen and you want to highlight some interesting information and show it to Susan or Bob across town or across the country, you simply highlight it on your desktop, tell them to go to the website, and when they go to the website, they see your highlight. And that can be very useful in a number of different ways. We saw a new company Thursday, So as part of the introduction process, I won't mention the company's name yet because they're quite young, but they've developed a revolutionary technology to apply security to the mobile phone industry. So today we've all got virus checkers and malware detectors on our desktop, and the thought is that the next frontier for evil people will be attacking our mobile devices, our phones. So this company's developed a method of securing mobile devices in a way that nobody is doing just yet. And their challenge is, how do we represent our business? Who do we talk to? What's the business model? How do we monetize our idea? Things of that sort. So with that, you've got a sense for who you have on the panel, and I'd like to solicit questions and see if, as you're starting your businesses, if you could ask anybody anything. I'm starting a business. I want to be successful. What do you ask? So, up in the top corner.
My name is Chuck Lasasso, SF, we're 84. Just a very, very basic question. You mentioned early on that one of the requirements is being part of the MIT community. Can you define what that means? Who?
Sure. It's really anyone with an affiliation, time spent with the Institute. So that would include present students, those that have graduated, staff, faculty. That kind of represents the superset of those that can participate in VMS.
Would that include spouses or offspring?
No, it would not. But we have worked with companies that have included an MIT member as a principal member of the team just so that they could get access to VMS.
Oh, sorry. But I will mention that we do double check that and make sure that if they can't just be token, they have to be actually actively involved. It's okay to recruit an MIT person to get on your team to get to VMS, but they actually have to really be in the company.
In the center, a white shirt.
I'm in New York City.
Just a second, we're videotaping, so it's important to have the microphone reach you.
Thank you. I'm in New York City, and I noticed it said New York City Economic Development something. And so I try to look it up. And, is it like 160 Varick Street? And because they don't mention MIT, but are they just affiliated with you, or they're actually
So the organizations that Sherwin listed, and I'll actually let Sherwin speak to this, don't necessarily attribute their program to MIT. They're running their own programs, but what they're doing is using a model that's based on what they learned from MIT. And Sherwin, if I could have you comment.
Yeah, we don't lend our name to the programs. A number of them will mention in their literature that their programs modeled after ours. We just want to help them get started and help them move along as best we can. But we don't want to lend MIT's name to the programs. So sometimes it's there, sometimes not.
So
if you fit their criteria for what they're looking for.
Except the guy's name is Owen Davis, and he's not really supporting the MIT community at all. So what I'm frustrated with, and I think Elizabeth, who's my classmate, class of 01, is there is no support in the New York ecosystem, and there has not been as much as I've reached out to the community for 10 years. And I talked to Howard Anderson and Todd Dagris and everybody. So how do we really engage our community, especially when we're getting our asses kicked by New York, Stern, by Columbia Business School, where we are a way more intellectual, vibrant community that just cannot seem to connect people. That's why I came here this weekend. Is because I am in startups, I know all these people, I'm very connected, and in New York I bump into classmates that are in the startup scene that I have no idea they're in the startup scene, because we have no organization. We got guys like Owen Davis.
So I'll commit, and I get myself into trouble a lot of times for this kind of stuff. Sherwin will probably yell at me on Monday. But if you commit, who's here from New York? Okay. You guys excited about this? Are you interested in making something happen? Okay. We've had...
I'm twitting with, Steve Case and Ted Leonsis connecting D.C. with veterans, with entrepreneurship to President Obama, and I can't find a Twitter handle for the MIT Sloan community.
We've had a couple people who have been kind of simmering on the back burner. They're affiliated with the club, MIT Club in New York, and they'd like to get the VMS service going there based on us. It won't be, us, but it'll be a service that's based on us, and we would help them get started. If you are interested in working with us to make that happen and get the momentum going so it really gets going, we're happy to work with you. So call me, see me afterwards, I'll give you my card, and we'll talk about it. Thanks.
And you're Roman?
I'm Dave Diamond. No, Roman Lubynsky, and it's rml@mit.edu.
Can I just ask the question, why are there geographic limitations at all? Like, why do you restrict it to the Boston area or the New York area? What's the practical reason
This
for
didn't
that?
start as a restriction. This started as a collection of individuals interested in helping entrepreneurs. And this has grown in a way because we were co-located with the Institute. We have monthly meetings where we can physically interact. We have facilities at the Institute that allow us to bring companies in to have this bit of orientation. We've talked many times about broadening the activity to other locations, and part of the challenge is financial, as well as the resources that we have available to us. And I see.
I can comment also. I mean, there's a practical limitation. So what we found is this kind of mentoring is face-to-face. You're not just taking an agenda and saying A, B, C. There's a lot of body language. There's a lot of open discussion that takes place. We've tried to do this with other areas, and frankly, we haven't figured out how to do it effectively yet. So we've said, look, the best thing we can do is run a strong program here and then help others who want to start programs elsewhere in a given area, help them start their program. There's a community of people that are important, both on the mentor side and the entrepreneur side, and there is this face-to-face interaction. So, we've tried, but we found that what we're doing is what works best, for us anyway.
Augustine Balaguer, Sloan Fellow 04. Do you help at the beginning? I mean, sometimes when you are working, the part of the problem is getting started, right? Break that link with your current responsibilities and dedicate the time to this good idea and kind of take it out, right? Break those links that are capturing you in the day-to-day. Do you help on that?
Sure. So I think that one of the early conversations that happens with certain mentees, but not all, because some may already have established the company and have a staff, others may be just an idea of a student or a faculty member, is asking the question, and in my case, some of the ideas are life sciences that are coming out of labs. Who's going to champion this idea moving forward? Is a faculty member going to seriously commit to leaving academia or taking a sabbatical? Is there a postdoc in the lab? Is there another grad student floating around? Is there someone in the network? And those can be very important or critical early conversations in the earliest days of that venture. So absolutely, they're a key topic for sure.
Thank you. My name's John Adams, Sloan Fellow from 78. I was curious as to whether you have any role in linking the entrepreneurs together with investors, and if you do, how does that work?
Well, I guess I can take that one because I've been involved in actually on both sides. And yeah, there is certainly a role. I mean, I think some of the most valuable things are the network that comes with VMS. You actually end up, I've gotten, as a mentee, I've gotten introductions to venture capitalists and so forth. And I don't know, actually, as a mentor, I've also made introductions as well. Now, that being said, it's not just, well, I'm going to go into VMS and get a bunch of introductions with VCs. People are very, very concerned about their own reputations and So once you get sort of past a certain point, once they feel you're ready, then you can often get an introduction. But if that's the only reason you're going to VMS, you'll probably have a problem. Anyone else want to comment on that?
Hi, I'm a Sloan 98. I'm in a startup with another 3 MIT Sloanies. We have a MIT investor. We are based in Spain, so that doesn't qualify us, but we are. I have 3 degrees in MIT. Can I get like an MIT local person to be my, I don't know, face to you guys and work with you guys on a monthly basis? And then there's huge technologies called Skype. It's not it's for free. So can we arrange something?
Well, send us a note and we'll take a look. I can't promise anything, and we've tried some distance mentoring things, and the problem is Skype works great. When it all works great, it goes okay. But 9 times out of 10, you end up futzing around for half an hour. So.
No, my suggestion was to work. I understand the face value is like I can have somebody locally from Boston on a team just dedicated to this program.
Well, let's talk about it offline and see if we can make something work.
Hello, my name is Morali, a class of 03 undergrad. I had a question. How would you compare to like services like Y Combinator? Yeah.
So I think there's a number of similarities. Certainly, the mentorship component in things like Y Combinator and Techstars is critical, and I think there's lots of other organizations that do different kinds of mentorship. One of the nice things about VMS's version of mentorship is it's unbiased, so you can't be an investor, you can't have an economic interest, and so I think that brings a really unique value that is a little different than Y Combinator. So that's one element. I think that's important, and we're not putting money in. We're purely about the connection, the knowledge, the support in an unbiased way. That's probably I think would be the best way to answer that.
And these are not mutually exclusive. Right. There's no reason you can't use both services.
I would just add, those are good programs, but they're sort of more like boot camp, really intense programs. VMS in my 2 goes at it has just been sort of lower intensity, longer lasting. You kind of go and tap it now and then. In the beginning, you can try to do monthly, but that's still not very high intensity.
And if I can make one more comment on this topic, the way VMS is structured, the entrepreneur drives the relationship. If you are an intense entrepreneur, intent on accelerating your company to success in the most rapid fashion possible, you can draw as much energy from VMS as you would like, and you can meet as frequently as you would like. If, on the other hand, you have a day job and you're doing this at night, and you've got to take a hiatus while you've got a big project at work, that's something that you can do with VMS that you won't be able to do in the other programs that you offered as examples. This gentleman on the end here has been waiting.
My name is Mike Hines. I'm a Sloan Fellow from '91. I've started 4 companies and sold them, and I'm working on 3 more, and I could sure use your help. Basic nuts and bolts question. What do you do about NDA issues?
Everyone in VMS has signed a non-disclosure agreement and a statement of integrity that obligates us not to disclose information that you may share with us. And if we find a conflict of interest, which actually happens reasonably frequently, we recuse ourselves from mentoring companies in those particular areas. Does anyone else have a comment? Top row.
Yeah, hello, Fabrice Poblo. I'm a Sloan 01, full cycle entrepreneur in a place which is more well known for its chefs than for its entrepreneurs, which is I'm based in Lyon, France, so even much further away than New York City. So how can I contribute back? I mean, just a very broad question, how can I have visibility into what's happening? And how can people eventually have visibility into me if in the field of healthcare they're interested about what's going on in Europe, what's going on in France? What could be working there, far away?
Great question, and we're going to actually get to that in just a few minutes. So I'm going to, if it's okay with you, if we could just table it, and we'll see if we can answer that.
One of the comments I will make is that VMS does maintain a database of those that have indicated a willingness to be a resource to mentees. And when we sit in a meeting and someone says, geez, I need someone that's in the retail sector in Spain that understands fresh produce, someone in the room will say, well, gee, didn't Susan just say that she was headed off to Spain and she has that background? So it's not a formal database that you can search, but it's in the heads of many of the individuals that participate in the program. And we've talked about formalizing that list in some fashion as well.
Hi, my name is Ilko de Jong. I'm also Sloan 01. I'm also a high-tech entrepreneur in Europe, in the Netherlands. Not well known for its cuisine, Fabrice. Maybe for other things in Amsterdam. But anyway, I full-heartedly, of course, share Fabrice's question. But I'm also surprised, like Elizabeth said, about this program being not connected to the e-center. Because, of course, the Entrepreneurship Center is also a platform for a lot of visibility. So is that part of your plans, maybe, or how do you see this developing in the future?
I think Sherwin might be best to answer that.
So you have to understand MIT. MIT is a bunch of organizations disconnected or loosely connected. It's sort of Darwinian. You can start anything. If it's successful, it can continue. If not, they get rid of it. And so we talk about the entrepreneurial ecosystem at MIT. And there's a whole bunch of organizations. I don't have my slide here that shows, but there's like 15 or 20 organizations. And basically, we're not part of the same organization. We have different responsibilities, but we all work together. So for example, the E-Center is focused on students. It's focused on developing entrepreneurship amongst active students. That's not the prime focus that we have. We serve students, but we also serve faculty, staff, and alumni. And in fact, this was a discussion when we started, and what Bob Brown felt very strongly about is he wanted this type of organization to serve the entire institute. And that's why we're part of the Provost's office. So we work closely with our friends at the E-Center. They usually mention us when they talk and whatnot. And we just have different missions, and where they overlap, we work out what the overlap is. And in fact, there's a lot of movement of ventures between our organizations, as there is amongst the other organizations. So it's not a conflict, it's just different mission.
Yeah, for example, I also spend time at the E-Center as an entrepreneur in residence on a part-time basis there, and do a lot of cross-referral. So I think there's sort of an organic. I mean, it's important. This isn't a top-down ecosystem. This is a bottom-up ecosystem with a lot of network and coordination that happens.
And a number of our ventures, when it's appropriate, they will work over at the E-Center. Typically, a venture will work for one semester or maybe a year at the E-Center, whereas we'll provide the continuity for as long as they need. And so, it's fine to do both.
Hi, George Emanuel, Sloan Fellows, 1995. I get questions from other alumni about the accessibility of VMS when they're not the founders or having controlling interest. Are you welcoming to all alumni who are working in entrepreneurial endeavors? Thank you.
How come I got the mic? If you're just in a startup and it's not your idea, and you don't direct or have active role in the startup as an executive or as a founder, then we can't help you with that startup. But so you have to be, one of the founders or have an active role or be senior. We do have, for example, organizations where the founder is a technical person or a scientist, and they bring in an outside person as the CEO to run the company, and that person is running the company, has some equity. We do work with people like that. But our principal client is still the MIT person. So our advice to that CEO is going to be based on what we believe and understand that the MIT person wants to have happen.
Alvaro Villa, MBA 2003. You talked about giving back when there's a liquidity event. Now, I'm not sure if you're going to mention this later, but what is that a charging model? You've come to us 100 times, and maybe in the future, if you have a liquidity event, that's so many dollars, or how does it work?
It's an interesting concept. It's certainly not one that VMS has pursued. All of VMS's services are pro bono. There is a gentleman's understanding that the services that are being delivered are valuable, and that as one achieves success, part of that success may be attributable to the contributions made by VMS previously. There's no obligation to give back. There's the hope and the expectation that those that have succeeded will see the value and want to give back.
I think we'll have time for just one more question. Is there anyone else that has really something burning? Okay.
My name is João Comerlato. I'm Sloan Fellows 2000. My question is, our community, MIT Alumni community, is spread all over the world. And we are looking for ways to improve our business. So my question is, how we can have access to the startups that you guys are promoting, that you have selected. For example, at this time, I'm looking for a technology for mobile payments. So my question is how we can see if you guys are supporting some kind of technology that may help us.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I'm not sure that one that we've had posed, thinking of VMS as kind of the MIT App Store. It certainly would be desirable from the ventures perspective to be exposed to business opportunities that might allow their companies to flourish and be successful. So that may be something that we get out of this discussion, that we go and investigate, but I don't believe we have anything in place to facilitate what you've just questioned about. So I think all of us are going to be here for a period after the session, and we welcome you to come down and ask us questions. There's a little more. Okay, great. I actually felt badly that we didn't get a chance to share the microphone equitably. So if you have questions for any of the folks on the panel, I encourage you to please seek us out after we finish up. And with that, I'll turn things back over to Roman for our conclusion.
I guess one thing is I'd like to do, and maybe we can get this back up, is to address your question about the donations. It's kind of a bread on the waters approach, and you hope that they will come, and it takes a really long time, especially if you're a science-based venture or you're an engineering venture that's doing a very complex thing like Terrafugia. If you're two guys in your basement of the frat house, you can get a social network going pretty quickly over the summer maybe. But if you're building a roadable aircraft, that doesn't happen that fast. So it can take 8 or 10 years from the time people come to us with an idea before they actually get to revenue. And it can take another 5 years or more before that's a big organization. So we're kind of take a very long-term view on it. And but now that we're 10 years into it, we're starting to see some of the first ones. They're starting to reach those points, like smart cells. So how can you participate and engage? So I kind of made up a little chart so it is easy to kind of see. So if you're local and you have a venture, or you're serious and committed to developing an idea into one, you can consider enrolling in the VMS program as a venture. Actually, can I ask you to start passing these out? And can you get some on this side? Thanks. And if you're local and you have startup experience to share, as well as the time and the commitment to put in, consider interviewing for a possible VMS mentor role. Now, if you're distant, I think we've already established that if you're an entrepreneur, there aren't any distance mentee programs today. But it is something that we are sensitive to and would like to find answers for. However, if you are distant, or even if you're local, this works too. You can use your experience and expertise in your industry or in your position to help VMS, even without startup experience. Our ventures can benefit by getting advice on an ad hoc basis from people who are on the current front line out there. Ventures have questions about what do customers really want, what are people really using today, what are the real issues, and having someone that we can connect to have those discussions and answer some of those questions for both mentors and mentees is excellent. So if anyone, and this is kind of light duty, you don't have to sign a non-disclosure with us. It'll be occasional phone calls from people who are targeting the kind of expertise that you have. The VMS office will do the coordination of connection. So if you'd like to become a VMS Connection affiliate, there's a tear-off on the bottom of that form. Just put your name and email on there, basically, and we'll get in touch with you to get the information into our database, like Dave was starting to mention, as a resource. Contact information for VMS is here. We're in Building 10. That's under the dome, the big dome. Well, I guess the formatting somehow on the projector, that's mit.edu/VM. The VMS is down here somehow. Well, it's 12:30. Does anybody have any final comments or points?
The way I originally got involved from Roman was to help companies in a very pointed way that needed expertise in licensing models for software. And it was amazing how many companies could be able to tap experiences, really unique experiences that you have had in your careers that could be like fuel injectors to start in an affiliate way that we can tap immediately and then funnel to the various companies, and then from there look at what involvement you have over time. But just things that you take for granted can be exceedingly valuable to companies that have, or researchers that have been living their lives in the labs, that could be able to tap areas that you have a lot of experience with. So that's I think one of the key areas that if you're looking to give back in some very easy ways, that's a way to get started.
And we have some, a lot of our mentors are retired, and they are great, top-notch people, but they've been out of the industry sometimes for 5 or 10 years, and things change a lot. So they can still give great advice, but they can't tell you what's going on the ground at the moment. So if you're interested at all, please try it out. We'd like to get your help. And with that, I'd like to thank you all for coming today, and please feel free to come down and chat with us or contact us. Once again, my email address is rml@mit.edu. Thanks.